Okay, hello my students, this is Mr. D's class coming at you with another instruction video. This time this one is continuation of 4.2 linear relations part 3, and this is on completing data tables. When you have a data table that's incomplete or partially completed, and the second part is going to be completing data tables using an equation. Okay, so here's a first example that I did with you in class, so you can view this video again. So I'm pretty much kind of like a repeat of a lecture in class. So if I gave you a data table that looks like this, where as you notice the x values are increasing by 1, but on the y-axis, on the y values, I leave some gaps here. But if you notice from data set 2 and 3, maybe you can guess from here like what the pattern is. Okay, if this is a constant increase, and you can see that 6 to 8 there's an increase of 2. Therefore, you should be able to go back and forth up or down and really determine and figure out what your missing values are. So if 8 was to go further and increase by 2, then this would be a 10. But if you go up, then we'll have to decrease this 6 by 2, then this would be 4. So your missing values here, there would be 4 and 10. Okay? Now I gave you a more difficult example in class, so I'm going to repeat that, how to do that here in this video. This was the example that I gave you, where I have -4, -2, 0, and 2. Okay? So now I gave you a 4 here for the y, and then way down here I gave you a -8. Okay? Okay? So now, how do I figure out what the real constant increase is from here? And sometimes you can just figure this out by guessing, but you can also use a different technique where calculate the total change from 4 to -8, and then calculate the total change from -4 to 2 for the x values. Well, in class, I think with the help of some students, we figured out that this actually, from 4 to -8, that is actually a total decrease of 12. And from -4 to 2, that's a total increase of 6. So, what is the constant change then for this kind of data table? Well, our next step would then be take this total change in the y, -12, and divide that by the total change in the x, which is +6, and the constant change then would be -2. Okay, but the problem we have here is it's not a constant change of -2 from -4 to -2. We actually have to fill in the gaps in here for the x. So that's why I put some space here. So then if we fill in the gaps here, from -4 to -3, -2 to -1, and then 0 to +1, then now we actually have this constant increase by 1. And so now we can actually fill in what's missing on the y, which is a constant decrease of 2. So our next value would be 4 minus 2, which is 2. Okay. 2 minus 2 would be 0. 0 minus 2 would be -2. -2 minus 2 would be -4. And -4 minus 2 would be -6. And there's our completed data table here, which is consistently decreasing by 2. Okay? But if you were able to figure this out, good for you. Okay? I don't think you're going to get a question this hard on the assignment. they're mostly this type, the first one. Okay, so at least that's two examples. So now we're going to go into completing data tables using equations. Okay, second part of this video, using equations to complete or fill out data tables. Okay, so hopefully you guys don't mind me using the same examples that I did use in class. Okay, but otherwise it really doesn't matter. Maybe yeah, I will use the same examples just to keep it easy, but just note that you might actually get some different equations, and the skill is really skill on substitution. Okay, so if we were to use x values -2 to +2, then the data table that we fill out would look like this, and x, y here. I'm going to put in my x values that we're going to use, which is -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. Okay? And our first equation, let's do it with our first equation. This first equation that we're going to use is y equals x minus 3. Okay? So this equation is actually being used, can be used to calculate what y is going to be when you're given the values of x. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to substitute this -2 where this x is in the equation. So this would be -2 minus 3. Well, what is -2 minus 3? That is equal to -5. Okay? Do it again for x equals -1. So I'm going to substitute a -1 here. You don't really need that bracket. But okay, so -1 minus 3. Well, again, if you see integers with just negatives here, it looks like it's just -1 and -3. I know it's supposed to be -1 minus 3, but it looks like -1, -3. Just all you see is negative, so we just put them together as equals -4. Okay, and so I think my instructions to you in class was, if you show me two calculations, and you already see what the pattern is, which is actually increasing by 1, then you can go ahead and fill out the rest, like so. Okay? You don't have to do a calculation for all 5, unless you really, really, really want to, but it's not really needed. Okay, so let's try one more equation before the bell rings and interrupts this video. Okay, again, our x values are -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. Okay, and this is our next equation that we used in class. This is for equation number 2. Y equals 1 minus 3x. Again, a practice in substitution. Let's substitute this x value of -2 here where we see the x in this equation, and it's going to look like this. Okay, and so just to make this multiplication easy, this solving equation easier, you do have to remember that you have to apply BEDMAS here. So this is actually 3 times -2, or what I like to do is actually take this -3 and turn it in and say it's actually a -3 times -2. So -3 times -2, that is actually +6. Finish it off, add it up, and so -2, 7 for the y over here. Do a second calculation. Y equals 1 minus 3 times, this time I'm going to substitute a -1 here. And so this will give me 1 plus 3, because the -3 times the -1 is equal to +3. And that will give me 4. Okay? And look, now that I see what my pattern is, this is actually decreasing by 3. And your hint here really is already in the equation. You see this -3 in front of this x? That tells you that this is actually decreasing by 3. So decreasing by 3, then we're going to keep decreasing by 3. 4 minus 3 then would be 1. 1 minus 3 is negative 2. Negative 2 minus 3 is negative 5. And there's your completed data table. Okay? So again, when you do this assignment, when you finally get this assignment, you will get an exercise where you fill in data tables using equations. All I really need from you is just to show me 2 calculations, okay? 1, 2, 1, 2, and then you could fill in the rest when you determine what the pattern is, okay? And thank you so much for viewing this video. Hopefully it helps you out, and I'll say goodbye for now. I'll see you in class. Bye-bye.